Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Campus Technology. I'm Jill Albenhill, the Vice President for Information Technology at Dominican University outside of Chicago, and I have the pleasure of being on the Campus Technology Advisory Board, so I welcome you today. We're going to have an expert on security share some thoughts with us. Reg Harnish is the Chief Security Strategist at Grey Castle Security. Reg is an entrepreneur, a security specialist, speaker, and Chief Security Strategist for Grey Castle Security. He has nearly 15 years of security experience, specializing in security solutions for financial services, healthcare, higher education, and other industries. Reg's security expertise ranges from risk management, incident response, and regulatory compliance to network, application, and physical security. Reg brings a unique, thought-provoking perspective to his work, and he strives to promote awareness, establish security fundamentals, and reduce risk for Grey Castle security clients. Reg is a fellow in the National Cybersecurity Institute, a cybersecurity educational institute located in Washington, D.C. Reg currently serves as the president for the Hudson Valley chapter of ICACA. He also serves on the advisory board for IIT Technical Institute. Reg is also previously a member of the board of directors for the Red Cross of Northeastern New York. Thank you, Reg, for joining us today, and hopefully we'll have a lively conversation when Reg is done with his remarks.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's great to see such a full audience here. I think maybe we could start out with one of the greatest problems in cybersecurity today was just truly a lack of awareness. And I think if you look across all the different states, all the different colleges and universities, people, domains, departments, there are some things that have changed in cybersecurity over the past 10 years and things that have really not changed at all. And I think we've seen technology come a long way, right? Think what we can do with firewalls and intrusion detection and application filtering and all sorts of other things. But what hasn't been fixed or what hasn't really evolved over time is people. So today I want to cover a couple of things. One really is truly what is going on in cybersecurity for higher ed. Talk about one of the major problems and then how we can potentially solve that. So thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. I won't repeat it. But I've been doing cybersecurity for about 15 years now, some of which was on the other side. Today I'm a consultant for Grey Castle Security, but for the 10 years prior, I had cybersecurity problems. And so everything from needing penetration testing to implementing and measuring technical controls to lots of other things, I was the guy that was buying security services. And so with Grey Castle Security, we set out to solve a couple of major problems in cybersecurity. One is that there really was a real dearth of technical skills, people skills, process skills around security. But then really sort of the having that domain knowledge, but also the experience to be sitting on the other side of the coin. So I feel pretty fortunate. So yesterday, a college in upstate New York was compromised. The comptroller walked into their office yesterday morning to find $175,000 missing from a payroll account. And I'm sure many of you have heard of these stories, and really no difference. So whether it's a malware outbreak on your network or students downloading illegal downloads, music, videos, whatever it is, or money missing from an account, all of these things sort of fall into the cybersecurity realm today, which has become the wild, wild west for a number of reasons. But this is a true story and really not a unique one, because we hear about these stories every day. In fact, my business, we spend about 30% of our time responding to security incidents just like this. In fact, one of our very first clients years ago was a college that was missing about 175. The money had gone over to Romania through Western Union and was really never coming back. We worked with the FBI to recover, contain, triage, the usual incident response steps, but pretty much they were out of luck. Subsequently, though, they became a success story from our perspective in that they went through an assessment, a security assessment, then on to risk management, and they're really doing some, the whole approach to cybersecurity is very, very different today. So I mentioned that we would talk about the biggest problem in cybersecurity today, and it is people. And so if we think about everything from students compromising their grades, or the credit card information being lost from the bookstore or the registrar or the bursar, through health information at the health center or the infirmary on your college campus. Every one of these things has become centered around people and the failures in human beings. If you look at almost every one of the security researcher reports, whether it's Verizon, IBM, Symantec, the list goes on, every one of them cite one thing: people. 95% of the breaches that have occurred over the past 5 years have started with the failure of a human being. And so we just haven't gotten there. And so there's an exhibit hall full of technology out here that will help you with firewalling and access controls and video surveillance and lots of other things. And only one company, this is not an ad, sorry, only one company that will help you solve the people and process problem, because it is everywhere. And truly, we haven't evolved as a society. Certainly, there's more awareness around the breaches that occur. In fact, you can't really turn on a TV or open a newspaper today without reading about another breach somewhere going on. And unfortunately, we're just scratching the surface there, because most breaches are not reported. But we're not going to solve the cybersecurity problem until we solve the people problem, and we don't want to solve the people problem because it's not security, it's psychology, and getting the human brain to do different things has been a challenge for millennia. Now, there's some other unique challenges in higher ed, and it's one of the areas where we specialize and have a bunch of experience. Certainly, in academia, we're into sharing information, not necessarily protecting it. Many of us have open campuses where strangers, the rest of the city, the town, can walk through into public and open facilities. And then I think the different demographics of folks that you typically find on a college campus, not necessarily geared towards great cybersecurity, and that's not to fault them. We see doctors being in a similar situation at healthcare organizations. But really, colleges and universities today aren't really architected for good cybersecurity. The security is sort of grafted on afterward. So where do we go from here is a great question. I mentioned in the beginning that there are a lot of things that haven't changed. And one is that we've effectively discovered this kill chain, this term called the kill chain, where most cyber criminal attacks occur through a series of steps, and whether it's through discovery and intel and recon on the organization, through exploitation, through actions on target where we're pulling credit card information out, or other PII or protected information. We've seen that most cyber attacks start to occur, and you look at them at a higher level, they look very similar. And so I think our thinking needs to change towards how do we interrupt, right, or disrupt these attacks in different ways, right? Because I think we've all figured out that firewalls, as advanced as they have become, right, firewalls don't do for us what they did 10 years ago. Same thing with access controls, and that's because threats have evolved. And if you think about it this way, it's kind of like squeezing a water balloon. You squeeze it at one end, the water just pops out on another side, and the water didn't go anywhere. It's just that it's moved around to the weakest area. And so the weakest link occurs in a number of places. And all along that kill chain, we see people really of central focus there, and whether it's how much information we put on our public website, to the passwords that we have, to how we've configured our technical and network and other application controls, all the way through being able to identify a phishing email, right, or not giving your password out over the phone. So I think really it comes back to a couple of things. One is thinking differently about cybersecurity. Of course, you've all made it a priority, thank you. And then, of course, really concentrating on the people problems that we see plaguing industries worldwide. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, because I think we still tend to focus, when we think about cybersecurity, we tend to focus on things like firewalls and antivirus and other technology. So with that, I'll hand it back to our moderator.
Tracking. Oh, there it goes. Thank you, Reg. Okay, do we have any questions for the audience?
So the new NSA standards for centers of excellence, instead of focusing on policy and management and sort of the people's side of issues, now focus very much on technical skills. And I think because of the issues that they've had and the people that they believe they need to have at the NSA, they're not focusing on the people side as much. Can you comment on what you think that the results of that might be, since colleges will now be educating people more with technical skills?
Sure. Well, I think their mission is different, right? The NSA is very different than a bank or a hospital or a college. And so they're likely staffing their team with the kinds of skills that they think they need to accomplish their mission. But for us, it's really about, identifying threats, modeling threats, being able to prevent intrusions and attacks, and then probably most importantly is, once it does happen, because it will happen and it probably has happened to all of you, how do you recover most effectively and minimize the impact of security incidents and breaches like that? Now, I wouldn't say that those skills are wasted. If you think about the Internet of Things and how connected everything has become, and we have insulin pumps and refrigerators and car brakes that are connected to the Internet today, and every one of them, there's a technical element to that. So I think all of those technical skills are necessary, and I think there's still a dramatic shortage of those skills. But if you look at where we really need the expertise, it's probably in a different area, and we're just not comfortable with it. I think, how many security companies do you know, or organizations that are employing psychologists to get their people to change their behaviors? It just doesn't happen. We're at such an early stage in cybersecurity and cybercrime. We just don't understand it. There's a lot we don't know.
When we're talking about higher ed, you're talking specifically, what do you think that the colleges today are not doing, and why are they not more aware? I mean, we're institutes of higher education. Why would they be like other organizations who kind of put blinders on?
Sure. Honestly, that's a great question. One we get posed often, and I think at the end of the day, they're a business, right? So they have budgets and they have bosses and they have cabinets and boards, just like a bank does, and just like a hospital does, or a retailer, and so I think it's sort of the cobbler's shoes syndrome, where just because they can educate and teach people about the things that are important, it doesn't mean they're going to do that. I think the budgets are just as small or unimportant or unfocused on, that's not really a word, sorry, in higher ed as they are anywhere. And so there's a real shortage of time, money, and energy dedicated towards cybersecurity. And I think we're experiencing the symptoms of that now.
So does your program focus more on the education of the staff at an organization, or what we need to be doing as educators for our students? Because I see really the need for both. I almost feel like as a leader of technology, I'm having to make the case sometimes for the faculty about they needed to be including other things in their courses. And then on the flip side, what can I do for professional development for our own departmental staff? And I'm talking about people not in IT, in admissions or in the business office or at student accounts, to be aware of their role in making a secure campus.
So I think there were a couple of questions in there. I think the first one about our program is really about helping colleges manage their risk. There's so many problems in cybersecurity today that you couldn't possibly deal with all of them. And so how do you spend your next dollar an hour in cybersecurity the best possible way with the greatest positive impact? And that's not easy sometimes. It's simple, but it's not easy. And I think focusing on risk management and managing your risks is critical for every organization, but certainly in higher ed, where we see probably a smaller percentage of the IT and overall budget being spent on cybersecurity than in some other industries. Certainly financial services would be a good example there. But really, you got to figure out what can I do and how can I make the greatest positive impact. In terms of getting admin, faculty, staff on board with the program, really it's about awareness. And I think as educators, we're sort of ahead of the curve here because we recognize that not everyone learns the same way. Some people have to touch stuff, some people have to hear it, see it, right? And so I think we should take what we know and the expertise that we have in education and turn that onto cybersecurity, because it's the same brains we're trying to affect change in, right? So, but again, I think one of the places we've kind of misstepped with awareness is that we try, and what we see is we try to turn people into security experts, and they're just never going to be, right? If you're in HR, if you're in the call center, the registrar, the bursar, if you're in alumni, you're not a security expert. It's not your job. But raising that level of awareness is really important.